So, welcome to District 4, the best place to be for information and news. I am your host, A Love. We are talking financial literacy. You guys have enjoyed this series, and each one I want to say built on the other one. So, I do encourage you to go back if you haven't already and see the first two mindsets that keep you broke, and then 5 mistakes that most poor people make. And it is because in order to give you more technical material, I want you to make sure you're in the right state of mind to receive it. So today we're going to be talking about ways to build financial freedom. So it is a process, and a lot of people think, oh, I'm financially free because I have a job, and we already know that that's not accurate. Or I'm financial free because, even I won lottery, I'm financially free. Yeah, probably for a few minutes, but not for a lifetime. To build wealth, it's going to take a process. And the further away you are, the longer that process. It's just like anything else. So I wanted to give you a few technicals to sort of say, so maybe you've been watching, you saw the first one, you see the second one, you're like, okay, fine. I'm listening, but how do I start? I don't really have much of anything. I do want financial freedom. What does that even mean? So let's start with that. In order to build wealth, to even get to wealthy, you have to have financial freedom first. Because you have to have the ability to move your assets where you need to move them. And that comes from really knowing your finances very well and not being in a position of lack. If that makes sense. Okay, so let's say you're almost there. Like you're starting out now and you say, okay, I make $22,880 a year. And I give a specific number instead of just rounding it and saying 22,000 like I did before, because I want you to actually think more specifically this time around. If you're getting financial freedom, you need to know exactly what you make, like down to the penny. So if you earned $22,880, go ahead and write that down if you get a chance. If not, watch it again and then you can write it down. That actually means that you make $440 a week. Now this is all before taxes at this point. You basically make $11 an hour. Okay, so those are the numbers we're going to be working with. So the first month you're saying to yourself, okay, so how do I start? The first thing you're going to do is do what you normally do. You're like, oh, yeah, no, do what you normally do. Buy whatever vices you normally buy, as many lunches, I don't know what you buy, clothes, whatever you're buying during the, gas, whatever bills you have, all of that, just do it normal for 30 days. Keep all of your receipts. This is the one thing you're going to do differently. You're going to spend the same because you need to know what you're doing, but we're going to keep receipts. So I don't care if you buy a 2-cent pack of gum, receipt. Coffee, receipt. Cigarettes, receipt. Get a box, shoe box, whatever, folder. Throw those receipts in there and don't look at them again for 30 days. At the end of the month, you're going to break down your totals in this way. Your living expenses, your entertainment expenses, and anything you put into savings. So if it's zero savings, okay, I put, X amount of dollars into entertainment, maybe, $500, and I put, my living expenses are whatever they are. Now, why are you doing this? Because you need to know what you have been doing. I don't want you to change right away. You're not going to learn anything that way. You'll actually go backwards. You'll digress later. And I don't want that. I really want to teach you financial literacy, and it starts with you understanding how your finances work, changing your relationship with money. So that's why you're not going to change anything at first, only the fact that you're going to keep your receipts. That's it. That's all I'm asking you to do, and it's very simple. It's just, you get a receipt anyway, just keep it in the same spot as you keep the rest of your receipts, and do that for 30 days. After 30 days, you break them down into these categories and see how much you actually spent. You're going to take that number and deduct it from your gross. Why not the net? I want you to deduct it from the gross because I want you to have an understanding of what you're really taking away from yourself. So there's a method to that. I just need you to do it from the gross originally. So you're going to take that, all of what we now know as your liabilities, all things that you've spent, everything you have a receipt for, and you're going to deduct it from your base. Whatever number you get from that, you're going to take that and make it your net. This almost sounds like it makes no sense at first. But trust me, you'll keep doing it no matter how much money you have. Trust me. Because all I want you to start doing is, the first thing I want you to do is think in wholes. And I said that last time, but I want you to think annually. No matter what you're doing, I want you to start thinking annually. And this is like a small way to get you down that road if you keep doing this every day for a year. The second thing I need you to do is to compartmentalize your money. Most people, I did speak about this in the video before, when you make your 5 mistakes, this goes into that category where you just pay your living expenses and then you just spend from there with no budget. This is a way to show you how much money you're actually spending. Because you're not tracking it, you actually feel better about spending it. Because as a whole, you don't actually know what you're making. You don't actually know what you're spending. Some people purposely don't look at their bank. They just don't want to know. This is how you get, overdraft fees. This is how you get spending more than you earn, because you're not tracking it. You just don't want to know. You don't want to think about it. But you're also saying, when you say you don't want to think about something and you don't want to think about your money, you're also dooming yourself to stay there in whatever financial situation you're in. Right? So I know a lot of financial advisors give you like this impractical advice. They'll be like, well, you need to invest. You need to get dividends. You need to make sure you have some blue chip stocks. And you're looking at them like, what? You need to build a portfolio. And these are all things, yes, you do. But what I'm going to do is break that down into just simple things that you can do to get to that point. Honestly, when someone says a portfolio, it's another way of saying your money is spread out into different things that earn you money. I mean, it's called a portfolio, but it's because it's when I said earlier in the last video, that's why I told you to watch the other ones, that you have to build to financial wealth. In order to build to financial wealth, it makes more sense for you to have multiple streams of income, passive or active income. And all that means is passive is basically making money. You could be making it while you're sleeping. If you're invested in something, if you're in the stock market, for example, you can win or lose money overnight. You're not even looking at the money yet. And active means maybe a job or some sort of income in that way. But I want you to understand these terms. For me to just throw a bunch of financial literacy terms at you is going to be replicating every other video, and it's not going to teach you anything because some people get discouraged by the terms. It's like talking to a lawyer. Sometimes you're just like, I'm not as well, even the breakdown is difficult when he breaks it down, he or she. So it's the same thing here. It's giving you a bunch of financial terms. I don't want to do that right away, but I want you to learn them and we will teach them to you. So start with this method. All you're going to do for 30 days is keep your receipts. That's it. Put them in a box. Pull them out in 30 days. Dust off your calculator because you probably don't use it too often. And total up what you're actually spending. I'm going to give you an example of how this works. I had a client that was like, okay, I don't know anything about finances, I just need to take care of that. Well, long story short, we found out in 2 weeks' time, he spent $700 going to the movies. Do you think he actually knew he was doing that? Does that make sense? So if you hear, I went to the movies for $15 and, maybe I bought a couple of other people some tickets and then we got some food, you're not really thinking about that. He wasn't thinking about it. But when you put it in a whole and you put it over a period of time, and in his case it was 2 weeks, he already spent $700 off of his income. That doesn't include what else he was doing. In the video 5 Mistakes, it talks about vices, and it talks about how you spend too much money on that. In the first one, it also says, it makes a reference to it as well. So I want you to see how this is building on something, and how when you do these things, when you start checking yourself, you'll start to realize you're wasting a lot of money on things that you, I mean, if I said to you, I spent $700 going to the movies, you would go, what movie were you seeing? I don't know any person that wouldn't think that was outrageous. I don't know anyone. I don't care if you have multi-million dollars in the bank, just somehow $700 going to the movies does not sound like it makes any sense. It seems like a waste of time and money, right? Why do you spend $700 going to the movies? It doesn't make sense. You know, I've had clients that spent, you know, I always say cigarettes, drinking alcohol. I had a man that did alcohol. He was also a smoker, and he, on just alcohol, every month, he spent about $630 on alcohol. Clearly he had a problem, but that's just on alcohol. It doesn't include the smoking. It doesn't include, you know, all the other stuff he was probably doing. Buying clothes, or, you know, treating himself to dinner, or, you know, whatever else you're doing. You've probably saved more during the pandemic than you did before, and that is another way to help you check how much money you're actually wasting. Many of us had to eat it. This was foreign for many of us because a lot of us went to restaurants as a pastime. But, you know, you're spending $70 by yourself, you know, on dinners. That tends to add up. So I say all that to say that. This is going to show you what you're spending on. It's also going to show you your weakness, your problem areas. If you're spending $700 on the movies, what's a better way to do that? Get Netflix, right? Get Hulu, or get one of them. Maybe you don't need Hulu, Netflix, a smart TV and a Fire Stick. You don't need, maybe calm some of that down if you feel like you're wasting money in this area. It's always small things. So after you do that, you're going to okay, now I know what I'm spending. Now you're going to break these into categories. Now there's a different way to do this. Once you compartmentalize, right? You've got your living expenses and you know how much you're spending there. You've got your entertainment expenses and extras, you know what you're spending there. And you have your savings and you're like, oh, zero. What if you're this person, right? Oh, I've got zero. I didn't save. I didn't have the money to save. You're going to start talking yourself into, I don't have the money to save. Well, I'm getting ready to talk you out of that because you're going to look at your entertainment and extra expenses. You're going to see that zero there for no reason, and you're going to see your entertainment and living expenses. You following where I'm going with that? And you're going to learn to shift. Now, it sounds simple, but this is like, oh, Alex, this is so easy. Are you serious? This is what you guys get paid to tell people? No, we get paid because people don't do it. They don't follow. Because it sounds so simple. It's like a diet, right? You're a weight loss person. And, your job is to make sure people lose weight. Well, everybody knows eat less, exercise more, right? We all know this, right? Eat healthy, low-calorie meals, or whatever whatever your method is for eating less, you need to do that. And, of course, you're going to lose weight. Well, we all know that. And yet, a lot of us are overweight, right? We're not doing it. And some of us are doing it to some extent, but not to a complete extent. So it goes into my number one thing you're going to have in order to be wealthy and not just rich, or not just, even to get to financial freedom. You're going to have that D word. I hate to say it, but it's discipline, right? You have got to stick to the categories. You have them in 3 categories. Now you're going to figure out what percentages go where. Now, the standard would be the 50% living expenses. It's a 50-30-20 rule. 30% goes into like your entertainment and things like that, and then 20% goes into a savings. But you're thinking to yourself, I make $22,000 a year, Alex. You know, my expenses probably are just about, on an average, 75% living expenses. And you just feel bad after that because you feel like, hey, there's, you know, not very little left. And some people more than that. So I'm sensitive to people that are actually more than that. So you're living, you know, you've got surprise expenses because you have kids, you have a car that's not, you know, a brand new model. You have all of these expenses that you have accumulated. And so you're asking yourself, I'm not doing that. I can't do 50. I have more than 50%, first of all, living expenses, so that kills me right there. And then you want me to put 30% of what's left away and then 20%? So I'm not asking you to do that. I'll ask you to do that when you get there. But you're not there right now, right? So I understand that. So what I'm asking you to do instead of the 50, 30, 20 rule is I want you to just put something. So I want you to discipline yourself to take away from one thing and put it in the savings and don't take it out. Like a black hole. Like once you put it in there, don't take it out. And this is not to say that this is you're planning for retirement with this particular theory. This is literally the nuts and bolts of just starting. We're still on track one. I just want you to put it in and practice not taking it out. It's really that simple. All I'm trying to do right now is change your mindset. So I want you, once you've done that, and if you made it that far, I'm going to, congratulations, because most people don't. But let's say you make it that far and now you have them compartmentalized, and but you're looking at the percentages saying, Alex, I'm not going to do that. I can't. It's not enough for me. I want you to take something from something that you're spending and put it in there. I don't care if you have one less latte every week. If you have to go to a cessation program to get off of cigarettes, some of them are free, so you can go. If you have to, whatever you have to do to get out of whatever you're spending your money on, if you have to shop a lot less, I'm sorry, you can't get the latest electronics. These are things that are benefit you. And you're saying, well, why would I do that then? Why would I make these sacrifices? Well, nothing you do, and whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you just have a really good job, whether you are anything involving financial freedom, and you've had bad habits from before, take sacrifice. If you want to lose weight and you've gotten yourself up to the 600 pounds or 600, 500, whatever, 20 pounds, or whatever it is that you are over your weight, it's going to take you sacrificing that piece of pizza that everybody else is eating, right? It's the same thing financially. You're going to have to sacrifice something. And once you learn to do that and get in the habit of doing that, it'll be easier and easier. It's like anything. If you're determined to lose weight, you're going to lose it. You will stick to whatever. You could just do Slim Fast and you're going to lose the weight because you're just that determined. So if you really have to ask yourself at this point, do I want financial freedom? I did my head like that because I'm thinking. And some of the time the answer is no. I've heard a lot of people say, I just don't want to do these things. And I say, okay. You just want to pay me to manage your money, that's fine. Or if you just want to, have your business do what it's doing now, that's fine. If you don't want to grow your business, that's fine. I'm not here to force you into anything. But I'm here for the people that really want to do it. And they're really like, hey, I grew up poor and I'm poor now, and I've got another generation of poor kids, and or if you're like, I've been in the middle, but I don't want to work for this company anymore, I'm ready to leave it. Or if you're like, okay, I'm retired now, but I don't want to be real retired, or you're like, I'm planning for retirement and I don't want to be broke and I cannot continue going the way that I'm living. I need to figure out how to get my money so that I can stop working and that's it. So, or whatever your goal is. The way that most people have been doing it before, I think the best way to say it is this. You've gotten in your car, you put whatever amount of money for gas you have in there, and you start driving. You don't have a destination, you just want to get away from wherever you're at now. Well, where you end up depends on how much gas you have in that car. It will eventually stop and run out of gas, right? And then you're just going to be in whatever city you're in. So you're forced to settle there, right? Because you don't have anything else. Let's say you were broke when you started. You had no money, you just jumped in the car, that was the only car you had, and you know, if something happens along the way when you still have gas and maybe your car breaks down, you lose a tire and you don't have any money to fix that, you're stranded. Now you have to stay where you are just because you're stranded there. You might have been trying to just pass through. Think of your money in this sort of analogy, right? If you just put your money in the bank, pay all your bills, and that's all you want to do, and then you just start spending as you go along, you're going to have to settle somewhere because eventually you're going to run out of gas. Right? So this is a little taste of it. This is just to give you some advice on how to build financial freedom and how it starts. And I gave you some very basic, very doable ways to do that, and at any income level, because literally these are things I still do. You know, and you know, for most purposes you probably wouldn't have to, but you know, I still do these things. I don't know too many. I mean, you cannot own a company, I'm sorry, and not budget. You're never going to survive. You have to apply some sort of theory or technique to that company. There's not a company around where they don't have a finance team, a budgeting, accountants. You know, you have to do these things at home. If you learn to do them at home, it's only, you know, it's easier for you to grow a business. Okay? So let's start with that. Let's start with some financial freedom. Try my little method. You know, it won't hurt you. You can always go back to doing what you were doing before and see where it takes you. I promise you it'll take you farther than you've been. I just promise you that right off the bat. I'm not guaranteeing it because I don't know what you're doing when I'm not there, but if you follow it, it will make some changes for you, I promise you. So thank you so much. I will see you next time. I also want to make sure you subscribe and like and the little bell, because we do different shows. So to get your show and to know when your show is going to be playing, or if you like them all, watch them all. But if you like just specific series, then make sure you click the bell, because the bell will tell you what we post, when we post it, and you'll be able to not miss anything. Also, the playlist. Use the playlist. Playlist is very important because it makes sure that you see these sort of in the order we need you to see them in. You can watch them sporadically, yes, that's fine. But if you're really trying to build, each one builds on the other. So, thanks again. I'll see you next time.